Drafted 15th overall, made an all-star before he turned 20. He gave this team everything he had, and now he has asked to leave. The GM wouldn't promise anything. Then he was gone too. And the man running this team now doesn't have the power to make the trade.
So I cannot make any guarantees or
Detroit drafted Dylan Larkin 15th overall back in 2014. He made the NHL as a rookie the very next season and was an all-star before he turned 20. This isn't a player who forced his way onto the roster and never bought in. He's spent his entire career in Detroit. No trade requests, no public complaints, just seasons and seasons of showing up for a team that kept losing. In 2021, the Red Wings made him captain, betting their whole rebuild on him being the guy who leads it out of the bad years. He took that bet seriously. Every young player Detroit has drafted since has grown up watching him do the job right. And now, after everything, Dylan Larkin has asked to be traded out of Detroit. And the man who built this roster around him, Steve Yzerman, a player who wore Detroit's own captain's C for 19 seasons, just walked away from the job too. He wasn't fired. Ownership didn't force him out. He resigned on his own. Two of the most powerful people in this organization, gone from the same team in the same summer. Here's why any of this happened at all. Detroit missed the playoffs this year for the 10th season in a row. Not the 10th time in a decade. 10 straight years with no break in between. That is the longest active playoff drought in the entire NHL right now. And it is the longest in the Red Wings' 100-year history. This is a franchise with 11 Stanley Cups. A decade without a single playoff game is not a slow patch for a team like this. It's a crisis that's been quietly building the entire time Larkin was captain. So, shortly after that season ended, Larkin's agent picked up the phone and called general manager Steve Yzerman directly. The message was simple. Dylan wants out. A week later, the list came in. 3 teams Larkin would accept a trade to. Minnesota, Vegas, Florida. All 3 built to win right now. All 3 about as far from a decade of losing as a team can get. This wasn't a captain demanding a specific destination out of ego. It was a list of contenders, teams where a player in his prime could actually compete for something. Yzerman didn't deny any of it. He confirmed it publicly in his own words at a press conference that reporters are still picking apart. Shortly after the season, I received a phone call from Dylan Larkin's agent informing me that Dylan would like to be traded. That much was just a confirmation. But then came the part that actually mattered. Yzerman refused to promise anything. My job as the manager of the Detroit Red Wings is always to do what is in the best interest of the Detroit Red Wings, and I will act accordingly to that. And then, the line that ended any hope of a quick resolution. The line every outlet covering this story led with. I cannot make any guarantees. I did not make any guarantees that the request could or would be met. That's not a yes. That's not a no. That's a captain being told to wait from the one man who had the power to move him. Here's something worth explaining before we go further, because most coverage of this story skips it entirely. Larkin's no-trade clause doesn't force Detroit to trade him. It protects the opposite thing. It means Detroit can only send him to a team he actually agrees to go to. Larkin has the power to say no to a bad destination. He does not have the power to force a yes out of his own team. That distinction is the entire reason this story doesn't have a fast resolution, no matter how badly either side wants one. Except that's not actually where this story ends. Because a few weeks after that response, Steve Yzerman was gone too. On July 15th, Yzerman abruptly stepped down as general manager. 7 seasons in Detroit. 0 playoff appearances in any of them. Nobody pushed him out. Ownership didn't force his hand. He moved into an advisory role instead, reporting directly to team CEO Chris Ilitch, the same organization. A completely different job. Now, to be clear about what is actually known here, because this channel isn't going to pretend otherwise. Nobody at the Red Wings, not Yzerman, not ownership, has ever said Larkin's trade request caused this resignation. Multiple outlets have only reported the timing. Weeks after the request went public, the architect of this entire roster walked away from it. That is a real reported fact. What it means is still an open question. And to be fair to Yzerman here, because the numbers actually complicate the easy version of this story. This past season, under Yzerman, Detroit posted a point percentage of .561, the best of his entire 7-year tenure. That's a team that was statistically closer to a playoff spot than at any point since he took over. And it still wasn't enough. Sometimes the story isn't a GM who failed to build anything. It's a GM who built something real in a conference that didn't leave room for it. Here's what is not in question, though. Steve Yzerman built this roster around Dylan Larkin specifically. He gave him the captaincy in 2021. He extended him for 8 years and $69.6 million, a bet on Larkin being the face of the franchise for the long haul. He drafted Moritz Seider, Lucas Raymond, and Simon Edvinsson to play alongside him. The exact young core this entire rebuild was supposed to be built on. There's a real irony sitting underneath all of this too. Remember, this is the same man who wore that captaincy himself. For 19 seasons, one of the most respected leaders the sport has ever had. The player once known across hockey simply as the captain is the same executive who couldn't keep his own captain from asking to leave. Yzerman and Larkin walked away from the same organization the same summer, 3 weeks apart. Now here's the twist almost nobody outside Detroit has actually connected yet. With Yzerman gone, the Red Wings handed day-to-day control to a man named Sean Horkoff. He's the interim general manager running hockey operations. But according to multiple league insiders, Horkoff does not have the authority to actually make a trade. Read that again. The captain of this team formally asked to leave, and right now there is not a single person employed by the Detroit Red Wings who can legally say yes. This isn't a story about whether Detroit wants to trade Dylan Larkin anymore. It's a story about the fact that Detroit currently cannot, even if it wanted to. But suppose, for a second, that changes tomorrow. Suppose Detroit hires a new general manager overnight and that person walks in ready to make a deal. There's still a wall waiting on the other side. Think of a team's salary cap like a household budget. Every dollar committed to one player is a dollar that can't go anywhere else. Minnesota and Florida each have roughly $1 million of that budget left for the entire season. Vegas has about $200,000 after tying up money in a player on long-term injury reserve, a real accounting move that lets a team spend past its cap limit when a player is hurt badly enough to miss real time. That money was already committed, long before Larkin's name ever came up. Larkin's own contract costs $8.7 million a year against that same shrinking budget. None of his 3 original teams can fit him without moving someone else first. By early June, insiders already had those same 3 names locked in. Weeks later, a 4th team was added to the list, the Dallas Stars. And even that expansion hasn't been enough to get a deal done. And here's the detail that makes this whole situation even harder to watch. This wasn't a down year for Dylan Larkin personally. He scored 34 goals and put up 67 points, one of the better seasons of his entire career. His team fell apart around him anyway, and no individual performance was ever going to be enough to carry a roster this far behind. He just turned 30 within the last few weeks. Not old for hockey, but no longer young either. Every season spent waiting in limbo is a season of his actual prime that he doesn't get back, whether or not this ever gets resolved the way he wants. So, where does this actually go from here? Insiders are split. One league voice, Jeff Merrick, has suggested this request has already gone too far to simply take back, that a trade basically has to happen eventually, one way or another. Another insider, Helene St. James, has floated the opposite pressure point, that Larkin himself may need to expand his list beyond 3 cap-strapped teams if he actually wants this to happen anytime soon. Right now, the Red Wings are searching for a permanent replacement for Yzerman. Names being floated include Dallas Assistant General Manager Scott White, longtime Red Wings scout and Assistant GM Chris Draper, and Pittsburgh Assistant General Manager Jason Spezza. Whoever gets that job inherits this exact situation on day one, along with a young core in Seider, Raymond, and Edvinsson, who are all watching to see whether their captain actually gets to leave. Training camp is coming, and at some point soon, Dylan Larkin either reports to a team he already asked to leave, or something finally moves. There's no version of this where the silence lasts forever. Modern front offices love to talk about culture, patience, and staying the course. Detroit spent a decade asking its fans for exactly that patience, one high draft pick and one missed playoff spring at a time. Right now, the two people who spent that decade building the plan and captaining the locker room have both run out of it in the same summer, without either one of them getting to see it pay off. Whether Larkin ends up in Minnesota, Vegas, Florida, Dallas, somewhere else entirely, or right back in Detroit's lineup this fall, one thing is already true. The era Steve Yzerman built around this captain is already over. The only question left is whether Larkin gets to walk away from it or has to keep living inside it.